Good evening.
All right. Hello, hello, hello. We are here in the building, in the room, wherever you're at. We are excited to welcome everyone to the Floor is Yours podcast. We have a special series that we're going to be doing, and it's all titled around to date or not to date in 2026. It's a new year. We all have goals. Some of us has relationship goals, and we want to think how many of us are really intentional about dating, or how many of us have just threw the idea out the window. Whatever that may be, we feel that it's so important to have a conversation around what's been going on. So, in the next three episodes, we're going to be talking, having real conversations about love, healing, hope. What does it all mean? And how are we positioned to be able to date or not to date in 2026? So, I am Liz Jennings, and we have,
G Rod.
we are excited about part one, the conversation today. Today, we're
Yeah,
just going to dive into what is it like out there dating these days? What are the conditions? What's going on? How's everybody feeling? We just wanted to have a real conversation to be able to support you all through these next couple of episodes that we're going to be doing, Gerard.
yeah, this is good. This is good. And I like that you let them know it's going to be a three-part series because there's a lot to consider when you're talking about dating, right? First, even what is the definition? And we'll talk about our own, perspective on what dating is and then the expectations that come with it. But first and foremost, the house rules. We need everybody out there that's watching us, tuning in. We need you to like, if you haven't done it, like, share, invite other people to watch the show. I think it's going to be a very spirited conversation, as it always is when we got Dr. Jennings on. But the topic, when you first approached me about it, I was like, man, how relevant is it, right? Especially starting the year. We got people with new goals, new perspectives, trying to gain new understanding. And as I stated earlier, there's a lot to be desired when people are talking about dating. Like when you hear it from one person, what they mean and expect is totally different sometimes from the next person. So, sometimes they define them as situationships, exclusivity. My Lilo, that's what my cousin called it. It says my Lilo. So my coworker said my little situation. So whatever it is, like defining it, I think is most important. Would you agree that you need to define what it is to you and understand the person that you're interacting with, what it means to them?
Yeah, I think on that end, that's a really great point. Hasn't the definition of dating evolved, is a nice word, over the years, right? You just gave some prime examples of words
Mhm.
that we didn't necessarily talk about, but it was always happening, right? It's been happening for years, for decades. But times have changed where a lot of things that may have been swept under the rug is now out in the open. And so I think because that transformation has happened when it comes to dating, it has also caused people not to want to have that title, not to want to have all the so called responsibilities that they call it that go along with relationships because of all the different things that has now evolved and all the options that exist. It's not like black and white as it kind of used to be the majority, right? Because we
Yeah,
always had these outlier situations. We kind of knew that from way back when you saw the 19 kids that you eventually found out about, but
yeah,
it wasn't as out in the open. And now it's kind of like, yeah, I got nine kids, and everybody got a different baby mama and this and that. And so the whole concept of dating centered around that has really like changed. And for people who still desire a relationship, we wanted to kind of just talk about it. Like, are you still able to share what it is that you want, or do you feel like you can't have that any longer based on what today's standards of dating looks like?
yeah. That's good. And I think for me, all of what you said, absolutely, especially the titles piece. But I think one of the more important parts of dating is self-awareness. And sometimes what we know about ourselves is in part. So I think me personally, it's important to have people around you that can, you know, not necessarily tell you about yourself in a negative way, but people that can be honest and truthful and say like, hey, you're kind of edgy when someone is telling you something about yourself, or you kind of get defensive, or whatnot, and or you're not the best communicator. How important is it to be self-aware about you before you get into the dating pool?
Yeah, I think that's really good. So I think you brought 2 points up, right? I think you brought up the concept of being self-aware of your own, like the way you communicate, the way you show up, the way you think, your thoughts. And then I think you also brought up the ability to have someone externally be able to give you some input and give you some feedback about
Yes.
yourself. And so on those end, I see them as being two different things, right?
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
I think, and I've heard, I listen to y'all all the time. And when we use it, sometimes we'll use, we're growing in our emotional intelligence. And sometimes I think we use these so called big words. But I think for this one, it'd be nice to like break it down so that people really have an understanding of what we're talking about and how this might relate to them. So when we think about self awareness, that's your ability to, like you said, be able to interpret how you're feeling, how you're thinking, and things like that. On the other side, for people to give you that feedback, I don't think we ever really talk about who that person should really be if you're
Mm,
looking for external.
yeah.
Because is it going to be your homie that's going to support everything that you do, that it's going to
Mhm.
overlook it? Is it your mom who, you know what I mean, that's her baby and you're going to be right in her eyes regardless? Or is it a counselor that is going to really like reflect and give you some honest input, who's going to be objective? Or is it, a spiritual person that is going to pray with you and really ask for discernment in regards to how they approach you with it? I don't think we ever really decide who that person is that's giving you that feedback, because you can be all the way wrong and have a homie like supporting that, or a girlfriend supporting that because she loves you, and it's really still not an honest reflection of how you're showing up.
Yeah. Wow, that's important because we got those blind spots, and of course we're biased towards ourselves, right? So what we think about ourselves again could be only in part. It could be some truth, but it's not the total picture. So I like what you're saying. Is it your mom? Which it could be a totally different perspective from a counselor or the homie or your girlfriend that's going to be in your corner no matter what. So how intentional I mean, should we be intentional about that, or I mean, is it that important?
I think so. I think a lot of us can live decades being unaware of how we're showing up.
Mm,
Um, and so this conversation may ruffle a few feathers because there's a lot of things that I hear, and none of it is meant to be judgmental.
yeah,
I think it's also meant to understand how we're communicating, how we're showing up. A lot of that relates, and we're going to kind of talk about this in some of the other episode, is the healing process that we've been through, the work that we've put in into evolving, growing, like becoming the best version of ourselves versus becoming the wounded version of who's surviving.
yeah,
Because oftentimes, if we're speaking from that place of that wounded person who has these walls built up because of what they went through, and that's how we're showing up, then that may not be the best version of us, but we define that as being, that's just how it is, that's just how I am, I don't have to change whether you like it or not, that's what you're going to get. And
yeah,
so when we think about relationships, if we're showing up like being that person, in our mind we're self-aware, but it may be from a point that is unhealed,
yeah,
unhealthy, and
yeah.
still have some behaviors that are not the most positive or conducive to a healthy relationship.
Oh my God, you're right. Sometimes I tell people a lot. Sometimes we just need to unlearn bad behaviors, things that we have normalized.
Yeah.
I've been transparent about my divorce, and one of the things I had to grow and understand is I didn't have to yell
Mm,
when I was upset. And that doesn't take anything away or justify what someone did to me, right? Because I'm calm and collected and under fire. But yelling is toxic. Yelling is not honoring and respectful to other person. And my mindset was before, well, I'm not going to let you disrespect me.
mm,
If you, even if you're yelling at me, especially as how we tend to see relationships in our culture, if I'm going to be the leader, the example, what does it do to the relationship if I'm yelling and at the screaming at the top of my lungs, even if I'm responding to something that was done and wrong to me. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, no, that's good. And that reflection is exactly what we're talking about, right? Sometimes we just feel that it's minute things, but in a relationship, it shows up and it can definitely impact that tone based on who you're with and things like that. So I
Mhm.
think understanding about yourself makes a really, great reflection to have a better relationship. And if I can be honest, the same thing, like, for me, if I were to see who that person is for me, I have my children are like 16 and 19, they're teenagers, and they've been along this journey with me for a while, and I'm pretty comfortable with them. But what I am noticing, because I always taught them to be able to communicate openly with me, is what they have taught me about myself is I have a tendency of masking when I'm doing too much or very tired and taking it out on that safe person, right?
Oh, wow.
Meaning I may keep it all closed, but if I feel like I'm having to do a lot of things and I'm tired, it shows in the way I talk, it shows in my attitude, it shows in me. Like, I feel I'm not saying anything about it, so I'm not complaining, but they're quick to let me know now, like, Mom, you can't not tell us and then get mad at and blow up at us because you never said you needed help, or you never said that you were, tired. How are we supposed to read your mind? And
Yeah.
so when I think about what a relationship could look like, I can definitely see that being a reflection of, if we take on too much in a relationship and we don't really say anything, but in our mannerism, it's showing up. If we don't communicate that when it's small, then it's going to amount to something
Yeah.
big, and that other person's going to feel it too. So that part is where for me, that reflection, and still working on now. I'm trying to communicate more. Hey, can you ask for help? Ahead of time, as opposed to me doing it all without looking at what that might look like now also.
Wow, that's interesting. You got me thinking about how many times I've heard people say that another person should know certain things about them, or they shouldn't have to ask or tell a certain person to do a certain thing or be a certain way about them. And I'm just thinking, like, even the greatest amongst us, we're human. And you can expect me to know certain things. And we lost Dr. Jennings, and here we go. Get you back in. Hey, are you there? Can you hear me?
Yes, thank you.
Okay. Yeah, I don't know what part you heard about what I was saying. But we was talking about you were talking about how there we go, I had to get the screen lined up again. But you were talking about communicating your needs. And I've heard people say that, hey, we've been together too long for you not to know this about me, or I shouldn't have to tell you that about me. And I think that's dangerous, right? Even the best amongst us, the most thoughtful people amongst us, we're human. And even though I may have been with you 5, 10, 20 years, I don't read your mind, right?
That's good.
Yeah. Yeah. So I think that's something that we ought to think about when we're talking about communicating our needs. But with that being said, from a male's perspective, and man, you back me up on this one if you agree, and if not, still back me up. But there's this thing in men's circles where we talk about over communicating.
Okay.
And while I do think it's important for women to be transparent, our female counterparts to be transparent, do you agree that you can sometimes over communicate?
For women, I think some women can.
Yeah.
I'm always accused of under communicating because
Really?
like I said, I will, like,
Yeah.
go along with a lot of things, to so-called make the peace. So my thing has been working on improving that and communicating more so that I don't leave someone expecting, like you said, for them to read my mind. But I think a lot of women can over communicate on that end, because by nature, women like to talk, most of them. I've always been more of a listener, and I like to, like, listen more. But we all have different personalities. But that's another thing to think about. I think there's some men that like to talk. Like, in my circle, I've had a lot of men who can go on, and I'm just there. You know what I mean? So, but I also think it's not generalizing what, and there is some, men are different than women type thing, but because times have changed and a lot of men have been doing their work in therapy. I think they found their voice.
Yeah,
A lot of them have, if
no
you find
question.
the right
So
person.
how do you find that balance? Like when you're
That's
trying to
good.
figure out, am I giving too much, or you know what, maybe this is not that big of an issue and I can kind of handle this one internally.
Yeah, no, that's good. I think so. This goes to back to what we talk about. We're talking about the status of where you are in your relationship.
Hmm.
And when we define relationships, we are talking about a friendship is a relationship. A, associate, that's a type of relationship, right? You're my man, I'm your woman, we're dating, that's another one. We're married, that's another one. So you have these different types of relationships. If we were to really reflect on that friendship stage of it, right? A lot of times we bypassed certain parts of it. So some people may jump automatically into we go together, but we don't know nothing about each other. And so you're trying to figure it out along the way, but you don't really have any good like place of learning because you've attached all these responsibilities to us going together without us knowing each other. So I think if we pull it back, and this is for everyone who might be like struggling and saying it just hasn't worked out in the dating field, what if we reimagine what dating was all about and we really emphasize developing a friendship and getting to know someone before jumping into we go together stage of it?
Yeah.
Then we have the ability to know how you communicate, how I communicate. We are actually getting to know each other. We're doing that process in a place that isn't so controlling
Hmm.
because we have a title, but we just want to get to know each other. What are your thoughts on being able to pull it back and look at friendship wise to be able to gauge how your conversation flow might go or show up?
Yeah. I think it's important to be able to pull back if needed. I remember dating a coworker years ago, and one of the things that we made sure that we was going to always do is value our friendship above everything else. And reason why we was like, you know, if this don't work, we still want to remain friends. So part of that was the expectation to be transparent, to, not be offended necessarily if one says like, you know what, we tried it, it didn't work. Let's go back to being friends. And it takes mature people, right? But I think if you set those expectations, at least I know what the mark is, what the North Star is, where I need to be. Hey, I promised you that we're going to value this friendship. And if you decide that you don't want this to continue, I'm going to put my big boy pants on and honor that. And not necessarily overlook how I feel, but I'm not going to let my emotions and feelings um, cause me to mistreat you and dishonor the friendship. But I think there's a caveat with that. I think we got the okay and the right to change our minds too, because we can go in things not knowing fully what that could look like, and then afterwards, especially if you've been intimate, you've brought each other around family members and spent extended time together. It could be hard just to pull back and be friends, but I think if you set those expectations and boundaries and talk about what it would look like afterwards, that it's possible that it could happen.
Yeah, no, that's good. So that brings us, so we're talking about right now, like why dating feels so hard. So we're talking about communication, we're talking about all the nuances that kind of show itself up, titles and all that.
Yeah.
So these days, dating has taken a totally different like approach, right? A majority of people are doing online dating or dating apps and things like that. How has that impacted, Gerard, the whole dating process as opposed to face-to-face dating?
Yeah. Oh man. So I haven't tried online dating in years. So, but I have talked to people who are pretty vocal about their experiences and open to share what they experienced. But I remember years ago there's this old website called POF, and it was Plenty of Fish. You hear about it? Maybe
Yes.
I'm dating myself. Yeah. But Plenty of Fish was I think it was bringing us into the era of what we are now, right? It was a lot of people. It's almost like a buffet of people, and I think while it offered variety, it allowed people to present themselves in the best light, right? So you saw a lot of canned, profiles where, hey, I'm looking for someone committed. I want to grow with this person and love and just get it right. And it sounds right, but there's a lot left to be desired in it. Well, it only give you what 200 characters to give your elevator pitch and present the best version of you possible. Well, at the same time, you're seeing somebody, but somebody else, you may be interested in someone else too. So think about it like this: if I'm interested in two or three people, and I'm not giving someone my full devotion or attention to see where this could go, I think they're gonna also know that, like, hey, I'm not all the way in. Or I've had this discussion on with some of the ladies on the show before. And I don't know if you heard this saying, Liz. They say, "Hey, date them all, sis. Date them all," right? And from a male perspective, I had to tell women how men could look at that, like you're too available to too many people. So I'm saying that to say, like, in this buffet type setup of online dating, I think you can begin to create the very thing that you're worried about. I'm worrying about putting all my eggs in the one basket. So I'm not giving this guy or girl all of me, but they're going to sense that as well. And they're not going to give you all of him. And so I think you end up with these people that just, looking around for that elusive, feeling, not just a person, but a feeling like I got in my gut that this person is giving me their all, even though I might not be. But if I see him giving my all, me as all, then I'll give him my all. And I think that's what a lot of times we see on online dating.
That's a great perspective. A lot of reflection on it. For me, I've been a dip my toe in the water for a day and then like come way out and say, I don't like the
Really?
temperature of it type thing. So I've tried like maybe 5 different sites, but I'll stay on it for a day or a week at the most, maybe talk to a few. And it's like, I can't get a good enough feel or read on this person enough for me to want to keep going. So I pull myself out. Like, and that's the difference between, to me, like in person versus online, and why, online hasn't really worked for me. I want the ability to take the time to like see you in different elements. I want to be able to, hear you, but also watch and observe you to make sure those two like coincide, because you can be one way when you talk to me and then you're living a whole nother way. And if I have no way of like seeing that on this online platform, then that raises so many like red flags and anxiety for me. So it makes it to where I realize this is not an enjoyable process of like dating and getting to know someone. So that hasn't worked for me.
Oh, wow.
And the in-person part of it, because like I will attention. So just to backtrack my history dating, right? So I was married for 17 years. I divorced 10 years ago. Well, almost, we're past 10 years now. 25 was 10 years of being divorced. Probably have dated like 2 gentlemen during that time, but mostly have been single during that period. And the reason why is if I choose to like go out, like go somewhere to, let's say I want to go to a restaurant, sit at a so-called bar, maybe to see if someone will, like a restaurant bar, right? To see if someone will kind of come and talk while I'm eating. I think what I find is people can look at you, but they don't really come and approach you any longer. Like the normal, I see you, you see me, I'm going to, try to come to you or whatever. I don't think that happens anymore. Or maybe it's in the places that I'm showing up for the intentional people. Because if we're somewhere where it's like you're grabbing at me, I'm gonna like run the other way. If you grab before you talk, if that makes sense. And I've had that happen before too. So that part is where I think I'm having an issue at, and some other people may too, where they have avoided dating. Is when you try to do in person, it doesn't feel like a man, and a woman can approach a man too, but it doesn't feel like men know how to approach women anymore. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah. So, man, we have all of these conversations. And, if you didn't know, men, we know everything. So we know what's wrong with women and why y'all are single. It's a little soft joke with some seriousness to it. But you're right. So I think what gets men in trouble or what they struggle with is what we see as the loudest in your face women on reality TV or social media, and we begin to take on the idea that that's how women are, and
Hmm.
then to meet someone like yourself, and you automatically think like, is she that way, right? And then someone actually gets to know you, and they're like, okay, she's nothing like that. But what does it take to get past that? So guys hate rejection. Most
Hmm.
people do, but I can tell you, I've heard guys like fearful of rejection, and they refuse to approach a woman because of that right there. So what they tend to end up looking for is someone to introduce them to someone else, right? And then give them an idea. But with this superficial world and this speed dating, I know there's one of the events coming up, and I don't want to put any negative mojo over it, but to be able to slow down and get to know a person, and because we all can present the best version of ourselves in the beginning. And I'm not talking about catfishing, that's different. But if I meet someone, of course, I'm gonna present the best version of myself. My posture is probably gonna be a little different. I'm gonna put my best cologne on, and my clothes gonna be a little iron. I think if we're not, if we don't have that setting, some men struggle with approaching a woman and expressing interest in them. So
That's good. That's good to know because I mean, I think I speak for a lot of women where it's like a man that's like respectable and really wants something coming up to us doesn't happen too often these days. And that's where a lot of us are like, what's going on?
yeah,
So we find ourselves like, settling for the ones that
they
don't
do.
really care
Yeah,
and they come in your face and then it's like, oh, where is the ditch where I can leave and this little break where I'm gonna go to the restroom and do a detour to the door and
yeah.
you think that I'm coming back type thing or
That's
whatever. So
funny. That's funny. Back in the day, those cartoons and shows where a woman used to drop her handkerchief. Maybe we need to go back to those days or something.
right.
But, yeah. But when I think we go to people's mindset and ideas of a date, and one of the topics that we're going to discuss was the hopeless romantic,
Mm,
and a lot of women want to be swept off their feet. The first time I meet him, the way he looked, how he smelled, the way he talked, the way he walked, all those things, right? And if it isn't a perfect just combination of those things right there, sometimes I've talked to women, they don't want it, right? And I think that can get in the way of them potentially meeting a guy that's good for them, not just that gives them the warm and fuzzy and tingly feeling, but someone that's actually good for them.
yeah, no, that's good. What I'm learning in this season, because I am being more intentional in 2026 of like meeting people and, just having more conversations, going out in certain places, spaces that I probably wouldn't have before, because that's my challenge for myself. So some of us, I think that's the first thing when we have the to date or not to date, we have to decide like if we are going to like show up, then we have to like show up all the way, right? I think before when I've
Can you
stuck
talk about what that means? Show up all the way.
yeah, and I was about to like when I
Okay.
shared before about sticking my toe in the water on the online thing and being like, truth be told, I wasn't like really forward, right? I was just like, there ain't no other options. Everybody has said that this is where they found their boo at. So let me see if this is my boo, knowing that's not like who I am and that
Mhm.
style won't work for me. So I haven't decided like finding people in person and like being intentional about observing how you carry yourself in the world, how you show up works better for me. So now I started going to events or different things. I'll go by myself and look my best and then I'll pay attention to who may catch my eye. Let me check to make sure this person is single first of all, and single, not single I just left my ring in the car, or not single I'm just here for the day being
Yeah,
single, like single. So this requires more like maybe asking someone who might know this person. There's a lot of work involved in this, Gerard, if
I get it.
you
I
understand.
get it.
But with that, I'm able to see how someone interacts with other people, how they navigate. Let's say I'm at a restaurant and I'm watching someone. I get to see how they talk to the waiter. I get to see how they interact with the people around them. All those things matter because they show a little bit about this person's character and how they interact, how they communicate, right? So if I see this person communicating like this in multiple settings, then I'm not going to expect this person to sweep me off the feet if my feet if they can barely say hello
Yeah,
using real words, if that makes sense.
totally.
Versus, but some of us ignore that. Like we have this in a clouds opinion of people and expectations. And sometimes it is like too high what we're expecting, and sometimes it's to me too low what we're expecting. So it's really like, what is that just right place, Gerard,
Yeah,
about what people should expect if they're not romanticizing love, or if they're not too cold, or you know what I mean, like too guarded in the process, because some men can be really guarded based on things that they've been through, and they may be a giver, but they're like, I've been burnt so many times before, I'm not gonna like show this because I'm not gonna have another person like hurt me. So they show up very cold hearted, you know what I mean, to the person they're meeting. So on that end, how do people deal with stuff they may have been through in the past and how they're showing up now?
yeah, that's good. And I think that's a good, before we jump on that topic, let's go to a commercial break. And after the commercial break, we'll come back and bring that question up and address it.
Sounds good.
All right, all right.
Real men talk. If I had a group of brothers that I could confide in, a group of brothers that encourage me to be the best man possible, that hold me accountable for actions, but brothers that won't beat me down when I fall short. If I had brothers like that in my life, I'd open up more about my challenges. I wouldn't be afraid of being vulnerable and transparent. I'd be more deliberate in my actions and not scared of failure. I wouldn't act like everything is okay when I'm hurting inside. Sometimes it seems like there's an all-out assault from the world on black men, and hurtful words from my lady cut deep. I can't show my pain, 'cause if she knew that she hurt me, she would do it over and over again, hoping that each time cut deeper than the last. I do understand that women have challenges too. That's why I work so hard to be the strength she needs. But I need a band of brothers who understand that sometimes I simply want them to listen. Sometimes I need advice, but other times I need a shoulder to lean on. I need a band of brothers that create a safe space that gives us all a chance to talk about our fears. Because it's therapeutic when real men talk.
So, if you've been following us on social media, especially my counterpart Gregory, we've been trying to kickstart or re-kickstart Real Men Talk, and you do a lot of space work in this space too, just encouraging men to open up more, but being that right balance, right? We don't want to over communicate, but understanding the environment, the people, the purpose, things of that nature, so we can be better people. But like that thing said at the end, it's therapeutic when men talk. So it's something that we want to encourage, and we're going to partner on that front too. So look for more information to come out about that. But yeah, thank you. So if you don't mind, if you want to speak on that too, cool, go ahead. But also, let's go ahead and re-engage the conversation.
Yeah, no, I love the real man talk. The work that I do, I'm really big on advocating for men, our young boys, men who just have been silenced based on, their voices and the impact that it has for them. But being that woman who can, elevate and give space and protect the ability for a man to show up. Because I often feel sometimes as women, we will kind of overshadow and kind of dominate in our conversation and our actions, and over talking certain things, and that man becomes even more silent, but yet we want him to talk, so it's kind of like a double sword. So creating spaces where men understand how to share their voices and sometimes they have to learn how to be able to go back home and appropriately express themselves, like you said before, without yelling, but
Yeah.
in a way that they can still be heard. And if they're not heard, then really evaluate what's going on in that situation. Is this a healthy situation for me in the long run? Because we don't want that man to feel like he's silenced even before he has the ability to like show up
Yeah.
in his true self. And I think that kind of goes a little bit into what we're talking about, Gerard. I think before we went to the break, the question I asked is, when a man has been hurt before and he's bringing that hurt into a new, situation when it comes to meeting or connecting with a woman, and because he might have been violated or taken advantage of, meaning financially or emotionally, he's now in a point where no one's ever going to treat me like that again, so I'm going to dominate this before they get there to me. How does that show up for that woman who now there may be a woman who hasn't done her work too. So now you have two people
Yeah.
who are connecting who are really like not ready. And then they have this rough situation and we repeat a pattern. That's one situation. But
Yeah.
then you have those where a woman has done her work and she's showing up with this open heart, ready to interact, ready to get to know, ready to receive. And this man who has been through whatever can't accept that version of her because he's comparing on everything he's went through before. When it comes to dating, like, what are your thoughts in regards to how a man can navigate that situation and how a woman can approach that situation to navigate that with that man?
Yeah. I think we talked earlier about self-awareness. And part of that is what you discussed too is going through the healing process. And you learn some things about yourself. I think sometimes we're a society that there's so much information out there that sometimes we try to self-diagnose ourselves, and I think we end up misdiagnosing ourselves and placing a blame on others. And not to say that others aren't a contributing factor to the hurt that he's experiencing, but it can't stop there. And I think there are people who dedicated their lives right to dealing with relationship and brokenness and healing and all that. I think we do ourselves a disservice because we don't take advantage of those resources too. And the other part is there's this idea that the thing that we hate the most, that we try to avoid the most, is what we end up attracting again,
Mm.
right? And I think that comes back in part two, being self-aware, knowing that, so that we can say, like, you know what, what's familiar to me is no longer going to be a part of what I'm doing, because that's end up being what it is because it's familiar, right? And there's another one too. And I heard a lady, I can't remember her name, she talked about this, that sometimes we'll avoid a successful relationship because of the accountabilities that comes with success, right?
Mm.
So we go and intentionally look for broken people that we can keep at arm's length, but not let them too close to us, so that we can still have a level of freedom.
Mhm.
So, those things, I think one or two things that happen, you're going to end up in a lifelong relationship of struggle, love, or you in a relationship that's just doomed to fail, right? Eventually. So I think it's important to become more self-aware, reach out to those resources that are out there, yourself. Gregory McKinney, he's a life coach. He does a lot of work with men in that space, but getting the help and taking your time, being okay with not necessarily being lonely, but however you want to frame that, being okay with just taking your time and working on self before you get into something, so that you can present the best version of yourself possible as well.
Yeah, no, that's good. I love that. Something else that we have on here to kind of talk about is people who are afraid of wasting time.
Mm.
Um, you know, and that might have been me for a few years, where it was like, because people always ask me, why don't you just what you said before, like, evaluate your options, just date people and just see. And I've always been like not that person. And my thing used to always be, I'd rather spend my time doing something constructive than just like going through the motions with people that I don't really have a connection or, vibe with. So that, but in this season, I am working on balancing that. So I can't totally like go out with everybody that asks me, but I am trying to like be a little bit better with maybe sitting for coffee and having a little bit of conversation with folks, just to see if I can get to know that person, just to practice our social skills. So for those who may not have dated for a while, who are trying to get back into it, I think being open to deciding like what is me compromising and what I've been stuck with, because if I stay in that mindset, then I'm going to keep kind of not progressing along my journey if I am desiring a relationship.
I like that. You got me thinking of something. I'm gonna ask you to speak on this. Like, I think it's important to know what healthy looks like, right? Not just what I'm familiar with, but what does healthy look like? And there is no one healthy. But how would you maybe advise someone or coach someone on, like, hey, get out there so you can figure out you've been. It's been a long time, and what's you seeing on social media is not it. Like, how do you go and experience and see and witness healthy relationships?
Yeah, so a few things. I think that we have to have a model to kind of go by. And I think that's something we've gotten away from, right? I think we've gotten away from really like looking at healthy interaction between like couples, right? What does that really look like? Like, how does this, if I'm looking and just looking at relationships, and whether it's a couple that's been together for a while that, are really vibing, you never can tell everything that's going on. But at some point you can tell when it's like, dang, they don't really like each other, but they together. What's going on? You got that motto, and then you got the one where you see like the closeness and the care for one another, and I'm intentional about making sure this person's good, and the mannerism and my body language and all those things. I think it's important to like reflect on that, because if we don't, when we have someone come in front of us and we haven't been out there in a while, then we may not know what that's looking like. Like I said before, when I was like going to certain places and a man would like grab me, like I'm really not cool with that. Because I'm really one of those where if you see me and if you know me, then you can kind of perceive that the energy is one, you're going to talk to me, we're going to talk together, but you're not going to just like go after touching me, because that's not who I am. And I think if a person can kind of see what healthy interaction looks like, then they're able to say, no, that's not for me, as opposed to accepting anything, even though they may not be okay with it, but because I'm getting out here, so I guess this is how I gotta like adapt. And then we start accepting more and more that is so out of alignment with what healthy should look like. So I think that's really important, is to be able to observe what healthy looks like if you haven't done it in a while. And then also talking to people, whether it's professionals, whether it's, looking and researching information to really find out what does a healthy relationship like look like? What are the bases of it? And so starting to not have a list, but the characteristics of a healthy relationship, not a list of a person, but the qualities of a relationship. I think those are things that we should reflect on more than our list of all the superficial things that we want in a person.
Yeah. So for someone that's looking to date and you have to give them a list of 3, 4, 5 characteristics of a healthy relationship, could you share some your
Yeah,
thoughts?
I think number one is a mutual respect, meaning what does respect look like in a relationship? To me, it looks like how our body language shows up. To me, it looks like how we communicate with each other, how we talk to one another. It also looks like, our ability to respect how that person is showing up and the differences that we have.
Yeah.
Like, and I say that because some people will, man, I wish you would, this person's body is a certain way, but you're kind of comparing them to someone else. So to me, like that shows a lack of respect when it comes to that, because then you have this person comparing themselves. So that's the first thing, respect and how we're showing up toward another. The other thing I think for me, it's really important is to have and I'm just going to kind of use this word, a gentleness in how you approach someone.
Like that.
Some people are so like aggressive, in how they come at you or how they address the situation. And it's really like such a, I want it now. Where are you at? I want us to, meet on this day and this and that. So there's aggression. So it's not a gentle, like natural flow of what comes next with it. So if you have that pressure, to me, you're already showing signs of something that's going to be troublesome in the future. So to me, it's mutual respect. It's a gentleness approach if we have that mutualist toward each other. I also think that being able to like respect what the person wants or how they show up, right? Like having the ability to not just say, this is how I want to show up in dating, or this is all that I want, but being able to express what you want, but also listening to what the other person wants. Because sometimes what might happen is it's one-sided, where this man wants this woman because he likes what he sees. So he's going to hear all the things that she wants and he's going to do that. But it's really not going to last because that's not him in the long run. It's just doing it because he want to get with her. And same thing, this woman sees this man, she really likes him. So she's changing all the things about her, the way she dressed, the way she talks, the way whatever, because she wants to like be in his, view sight. And so she's becoming someone that she's truly not. So really being able to like both people being honest about how they are, what they expect and what they want, and then being able to talk through that, to me, is another thing too. So I think those are three big ones, like really getting to know that other person and both people kind of showing up, sharing, this is what I want and what I'm looking for. And they both kind of can relate to that, a gentleness in how they're approaching one another, and then a mutual respect on how they're communicating, how they're interacting. What about you? Is there anything else that you would add? Or
Yeah, for sure. And it probably fits in some of what you said, but one really important one for me is freedom, right?
okay,
Freedom don't mean like, hey, just do what I want when I want, how I want. But a good friend of mine, she said that she is not in the business of being somebody's governing authority. And so she pushed me on it. And initially I was just like, yeah, I'm not feeling that. But she talked about the scenario is like, so if somebody wants to stay out to 2, 3 in the morning, you gonna let him? She's like, I'm not saying I'm gonna let him, but I don't want to have to monitor that. My thing is maybe he has a good reason, but I'm gonna listen to him and hear why he's out to 2, 3 o'clock in the morning. She said he better have a good reason. And if not, maybe, he understand why. Because some people come in with different perspectives on things, right? And he might not think that, hey, that's bad. He went out at 11 o'clock, hung out with some friends, and now he's coming home at 2. And it might be simply that. But she's voicing her displeasure with that and was like, hey, I really don't think that's appropriate, but maybe you can explain to me why you think it is. Well, now they can come to understanding, and maybe he no longer wants to, or decides that he's not going to stay out that late. Now, the part about the freedom part is she's not telling him what to do. She's letting him do what he want to do, and then decide, based off what he want to be, to if they want to be together. Now, the important part is, why is that a thing, right? Why is that necessary in her mindset? And this is what brought me in. I think once you start to give too much of self, then you start to expect other people to give up them things. So her mindset is be who you are fully. And if you want to change some things, it's because you want to be a better person for your mate, not because your mate has to demand these things, and vice versa. So I kind of bought in with that whole idea of freedom in a relationship, not giving you the okay to do what you want to do, not at all, but being who you want to do it. And anything that you change about yourself is because you want to be a better person for the mate that you're in a relationship with.
no, that's good. And that is healthy, because a lot of times things are demanded. And if that change happens and it's not like genuine, then either you're resentful toward it, or you're going to eventually go back and sneak and do some things, also with it. So I think that's really good.
Or you know what? I gave up this, so now you need to give up something. Right?
Yeah,
It's a tit for tat kind of thing. And I don't think that's healthy either.
that's good. Okay, freedom. Anything else you would add to what's a healthy?
Yeah, I think is vision. And that looks different from different people. And when I say vision is, I like I like freedom, and I think sometimes people could think they're counter, or they're or work against each other. I think it's understanding like, hey, there's a North Star, like, and on some things on retirement, um, our health, our spiritual growth, things that are important. Like, and I want my mate to be a part of. I don't want this to be something totally different. I'm working on financial security, so I'm not working my butt off when I'm 65, 70 years old. But she doesn't care, and she loose and just kind of, you know, I'm not saying it in the wrong way, but she's like, hey, I want to live my life now. I'm not worried about what's going to be when I'm 65 or 70. I'm just saying some things like that. We can have conflict in vision or conflict in goals. And I think we can overlook them for so long, but to the word that you used earlier, you become resentful or things that you're passionate about when they're conflicting. I don't think it's going to work.
That's good.
Yeah.
Okay. Anything else?
I think this, and for me, don't talk too much. And there's a couple things about that. I do value my quiet time and peace time, and it's because I do a lot of work in the community and for other people, and I need a lot of time to meditate and just gather myself and be in peace. So when I say talking too much, I'm saying it in jest, but there's some seriousness to it. One of the things that I can't stand is someone that finishes somebody else's sentences.
Oh, interrupts and
Oh man, and I just think it's such a show of a lack of respect, right?
Mhm.
I don't care if you think you know everything that he's about to say or she, because it'd be anyone that does it, but just try to listen, right? And I think that's okay.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah.
No, I think the one thing that we haven't talked about, and I have a really, to me, we're getting close to end, but I think it's really important when we talk about to date or not to date, trust. Is trust something that is given, that should be given at the beginning, or something that's like earned along the way? Like, what are your thoughts on that? Because I think a lot of women don't trust men and vice versa. Men don't trust women based on stuff that has happened or things that they've been through. And so I think this is a really caveat thing that maybe we have we talk about, and then, we can continue the conversation for the next episode. But what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I think that'd be good to unpack a little bit more when we got more time. But I think um, a lot of times we come in with trust issues. You see a person with a backpack on. If you open it up and picture that being all their baggage or trauma or anything that they're dealing with, and that baggage can be, we kind of give a negative tone to it. Sometimes it can be, positive or either kind of neutral, whatever. But that trust thing, it could be coming from a past relationship. It can be from something that you've seen or witnessed from your parents or other people in your proximity. But I think trust is not a feeling. And I think sometimes we act as if it is. Trust is not a feeling. Trust is a decision that I make if I'm going to trust, right? Now we could talk about how comfortable it is to trust, and the reasons that I will or will not make the decision to trust. And I liken it to when my daughter was getting her license and she wanted to use my vehicle to go out and hang with the friends. I just have to trust that everything's going to be okay. Was I worried? Absolutely. Let's be honest. She's out there, a new driver, and we just know what goes on. I was her age before. And so the decision was to trust that everything's going to be okay, that what she learned in driver's ed, that what I taught her, when I was driving her around or she was driving me around, and, to, look both ways and slow down and under the speed, all those things, I trust that she's going to take heed to those. Was I worried again? Absolutely. There was some concern, but it wasn't so much so that it hindered her from being who she was and enjoying life in that stage right there. So that's kind of what I think about trust. Yes, it's necessary, but I think if we understand that it's a decision and not so much a feeling, that it's something that we can deal with in a more meaningful way.
Okay. Part two.
Okay.
Is that a decision that you make at the beginning?
I think if I'm going to get in a relationship, that absolutely, because if not, it's going to show. I'm just thinking like unpacking it. What did that look like if I don't trust? Like, hey, I'm about to get off the phone and take me a shower and go to bed. If I'm not trusting, that's gonna, I mean, anxiety, bad feelings, thoughts about what she could be doing instead of being on the phone with me. You see what I'm saying? So I think if it's a feeling, yes, it's something that I should absolutely give in the beginning. And if not, what am I even doing?
Yeah. I like the when you use that driving analogy, there was training that
Yeah.
happened. There were things that your daughter went through to like get to that point where when she asked for the vehicle, it was like all the work that's been put into this, I can trust the
Yeah.
decision that it's okay. If you're just meeting someone and you have not put in any of that work, how do you do that? How do you make a decision at the very beginning when you don't even really know this person if you are like dating at the beginning?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's good. What's the alternative? Like, just so the scenario about you're getting off the phone, I'm talking to you saying like, hey, I'm gonna take a shower. But I don't trust it because you haven't built that in our relationship yet. I mean, what is that going to mean now? If you're telling me you're going to get off and go take a shower, am I not going to believe you? And I'm going to show up to see, or hey, um, turn on the shower water so I could hear it. I mean, you,
Some
you,
people do, right? Like they demand these things. Like we're laughing about it, but some
yeah,
people really do demand these things in their relationship because they struggle with trust. So this is why I go back to that whole friendship thing and deciding like where you start at. And your interaction should be at me getting to know this person on not a relationship level,
yeah,
but a person level. And if you take the time to like pull back and say, if I have issues with this, let me start here and not expect that we have to automatically jump into a relationship just because I want to have a title or I don't want someone else to get you. What is your root for wanting to jump into a relationship? Or maybe we should be at this friendship level where I can establish this foundation. And the same thing you were doing while you were like working with your daughter, it kind of happens in a friendship where you kind of get to know this person, you're talking, and then when you know what, like I'm good now because we've had this opportunity. And when you go to that next level, then it's like we can go to second base now.
yeah,
we forgot about that. There used to be these first,
yeah,
second, people think it was sexually, but I think we should kind of do bases when it comes to titles and relationships
yeah.
because then we would build that up without it feeling like I got to start here and have these high expectations when reality it has not really been that way at this point. I can't blind
Good
give
point.
you something that you really haven't showed me that it's okay to like step in there with you.
That's good. That's good. And I think just to caveat or even the extension from that is realizing that, in our seasoned years, we're in our late 30s and 40s and 50s, that it's different dating now versus when you were 20, 25 and starting life together. Now, when you're dating people who've been on these years, on this earth for some years, you're talking about retirement accounts, homes,
Yes.
kids, legacy, things you're building for your own. So, what does that look like now when I'm dating somebody? One of the topics that's most heated is he supposed to pay all the bills? And,
Mm.
what does that look like if he has kids and you have kids and he's paying all the bills? What is she going to do with her money? You see what I'm saying? Like, I'm not saying you should or shouldn't, but those are things that I don't think people realize when they put those expectations or understandings on what a relationship looks like at 20 and 25 versus someone that's been on these years been on this earth a few years and has other priorities and things to be concerned about as well.
That's good. No,
So
that's
maybe
good.
we can talk about that in the next show, right?
Yeah, no, I think that's really good. To be continued, like that
Yeah.
conversation. But I think you're right. I think trust is a very good. I think trust impacts a lot of people's decision on dating or not dating based on, what they've been through and what
Yeah.
they're bringing into it. And like you said, men consider all this, women consider the emotional pain they may have experienced as being like their top thing. And so then we have these people like, trust is like this barrier wall in the middle of it.
Yeah.
And how do you navigate that to see, can we move forward? I think that's a really good
I like that.
pause, part two, something people should think
Yeah.
about and reflect on as we kind of move through to the next episode.
Hey, you got someone just text me a question too to talk about next time. What does a
Okay.
first date look like? You know,
Okay.
when you're getting to know someone, and do you need to go to a fancy restaurant, and or can it be in the park, you know, with some coffee? So
Yeah.
yeah, I think we got a lot to discuss. This topic, I enjoyed it. It's fun. Put some things on my mind that you know, tackle some of the bias or blind spots that I might have myself. But looking
Yeah.
forward to
Same
continuing
here.
the discussion. Yeah. So you do a lot in the community. So if you don't mind, won't you take a moment to talk about what you got coming up, particularly the speed dating event that we're going to be doing here soon?
Yeah. So, like I said, I'm deciding to not just stick my toe in the water, but I'm deciding to like, help others like along their dating journey. And so it was funny before I was actually asked to like facilitate a speed dating event in my local community. Everyone's welcome though. If you live afar, you want to drive to it. We're still selecting. So we're going to do a small group. It's going to be 10 men, 10 women selected to do this. And I'm calling it an intentional speed dating. So it's going to be unwind and greet, where we have actually what we're talking about, where it's a safe environment, where even though it's called speed date, it's intentional because you're actually going to like get to know the person. So it's not going to be a wham, bam, thank you type of interaction. There will be some things that make it intentional about getting to know beyond the surface of this person or these different people. And then, finding someone that matches well with you through conversation, things like that. It's just so many people have been in the house for so long or not knowing where to go to meet. So we want to kind of just have it where it's no longer taboo to say, I'm available and open to finding, an intentional connection. And so that is what we're having on February the 7th in the Killeen area. It's going to be for professionals, those who work so much and don't really have time for dating. We're selecting 10 men, 10 women to have this intentional experience, and super excited about it. There's a questionnaire that people have to fill out so that I kind of get to know them a little bit better and then seeing the matches. And so it's not just a blind, because people will just kind of pay and then show up and it really not be. So to be intentional, I am kind of having people think about why they're wanting to show up in the room to make sure that it's a good vibe for that one. So that's the first thing. And the second thing, actually, on planning that, I got asked last weekend to do a bigger event at a winery. And so that one's going to be less, not speed dating, but mainly like a sip, mingle, connect, and dance kind of event for people to have a space where singles can have fun, but still have some intentional things that they are doing. And that's going to be on February 28th. And you're the first to hear that because I haven't put it out there yet, but I'm super excited. It's a wonderful, beautiful vineyard and they are just looking to get singles together. So I'm the fact that we now have these good places where we can meet. But the hesitation, Gerard, that I'm having is because we've been stuck how we've been. Not everyone's kind of hesitant. I'll hear people in the background telling me, oh, I should sign up for that. But I'm like, where's your paper? You haven't you're thinking about it, but you're afraid to move forward. So that's why we're having these episodes, is just to kind of talk about the things people don't want to talk that's causing us to be hesitant about re-engaging and having people better decide, am I really ready to move forward? And if so, let me sign up in a safe place.
That's dope. I love it. I'm gonna do my best to be there. I want to witness and see what you got going on. I do have a question though. What happens when 10 men show up and 8 of them are interested in you and not the women that are there?
So the issue I'm having, Gerard, is even before the event, they're coming in, and if you're listening, I'm sorry, but there's a lot of people coming in my inbox when I'm inviting them to this speed dating thing. I'm eventually going to be ready, but I am not one of the candidates because I am hosting the event. So I'm helping to find good people in the meantime. So, but that's funny because a lot of people have been in my inbox and I'm I'm not ready.
Yeah, that's why I asked, because you told me that. That's funny to me. Okay, so how can people find you and information about these events?
Yeah, so if you connect with me on social media, it's Elizabeth Carter Jennings. That's what I'm under. You can send me a friend request. I'm sharing everything there. I do have private groups also that I'm posting things in. But if you connect to my main page, Elizabeth Carter Jennings, then you'll be able to see like all the things I'm posting on the speed dating and different events and things like that. And so, yeah, you just kind of connect with me there, fill out the form, and yeah, join us. Like we're excited.
That's gonna be dope. That's gonna be dope, especially the one that's in the winery. So you're gonna
Mhm.
have a drink limit on there.
Well, you get one free, and then just be safe. Like you're here to like not make a fool of yourself. You're here to like intentional like mingle. So let's
Yeah.
put our best foot forward, and
Yeah.
then when you're done, who knows? Maybe you can take the person out somewhere
Yeah.
or
So
whatever.
you saying the expectation is not to be in there holding a wine bottle like it's a 40 ounce, right?
Come on now. Maybe we'll talk about how you should. I think that person who said how should your first date be,
Yeah.
like don't get wasted. Like
Yeah.
like because
Yeah,
you're setting an
please.
example and things like that. So
Cool. Well, this was fun. This was fun. It's always fun when we share the screen together. So I appreciate you reaching out and letting me be a part of this. And I'll do what I can to get the word out with that. So you are. I tagged you on this post if you're on Facebook. So go find me on Facebook if you're looking at it. And you'll see her tagged in this post. Reach out to her for information on the upcoming event. But this was fun. You want to give us any parting thoughts, words of encouragement, anything before we go?
yeah, I think the biggest thing, Gerard, is for those who might be, setting new goals for yourself, don't be afraid to like dream again.
Mm,
Don't be afraid to believe again. Don't be afraid to anticipate like loving your life. That what we think of the longest becomes the strongest. If you're thinking about being hurt, if you're thinking about it being a horrible experience out there, then you're going to get more of that.
yeah.
If you want better in your life, then you have to put out the right energy so that you can receive like what you want and things like that. So that's probably where I would just kind of keep it sweet, keep it simple on that note.
Yeah, that's good. And I would just say, don't be afraid to trust.
Yeah.
Yeah. And trust is not a feeling; it's a decision.
Yeah, I think that was great.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Hey, so we will put out information again for the next show. We're going to do 3 of these, right? Total.
Yes.
This one plus 2 more before
Yes.
the event. So
Mhm.
follow us on all social media platforms. The Floor is Yours podcast. Dr. Jennings, Elizabeth Carter Jennings on Facebook. Look for her. Follow her as well. Everybody out there in social media land, we appreciate you riding with us this past hour. And again, look for more information on the next show. Oh, let me go ahead and plug real quick the next show. Gregory and I will be on here Thursday to talk about, and I think the title is "Why Is He Not Attracted to Me Anymore?" So we're going to go with those things as people age. What are they dealing with? Is it truly he's not attracted to you, or is it him dealing with some things that may be affecting his ability to be intimate with you? So this is going to be a great spirited conversation. There's going to be some transparency. Trying to get an expert to come on. There might be some conflicting, but if not, Gregory is full of information. So Thursday at 7:30. Why is he not attracted to me anymore? I think it's going to be a great event. Follow the Floor is Yours podcast. Follow me on my personal page, and of course, follow Dr. Jennings on hers as well. Hey, thank you for being a part of the podcast as always, and looking forward for more information. Just seeing if we had anything on here, and that's it. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Need another, this one here really do it for you. Baby,